Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the channel. It's your boy, World of Wrestling, here today to discuss about AEW Dynamite September 6, 2023 review. No, I did not watch AEW All Out. I heard that Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley really kicked ass on that show and did very well in the main event. Jon Moxley is now the new AEW International Champion. No surprise there, but if they would have went with Orange Cassidy, I would have also understood that as well. This show is pretty good. I didn't think nothing bad about it. I think the build-ups to Samoa Joe and MJF for the world title is actually an interesting setup, especially now with CM Punk removed from AEW completely and he's been fired. This leaves things wide open for any creativity to go on. There's no restrictions on who can go on what show. So it kind of is a huge benefit. It makes Collision a little bit more open reign for anyone to show up. The Elite can show up there. I mean, we got a ton of talent that we can swap around on both shows. So like Nero could be on Dynamite one week and we could see like Kenny Omega and Takeshita cutting their storyline on Collision, and back and forth we go kind of mentality. So it's kind of a cool idea. I think it's a really good move. And I'm kind of glad that they finally removed CM Punk from AEW because he was just a huge headache and created all kinds of problems within AEW's locker room. So I'm glad Tony Khan finally got the nerve to finally cut the cord with CM Punk because it was absolutely necessary. I stated this last year when it first happened. There was no need for this shit to keep going. I said this was going to happen again, and it did. So, thankfully, CM Punk is now removed from AEW, and we can move forward. There's also rumors going around that CM Punk may go to WWE. That's a good one. Very funny. Anyway, let's move forward with this review. An in-ring segment where Orange Cassidy kickstart the show. He comes out and the fans are chanting, "Thank you, Orange." Cassidy thanks the fans and says they told him to stay home. He says he wasn't going to do that, and Cassidy says he will be here every week even though he's no longer the international champion. Jon Moxley comes out for his match as Cassidy leaves the ring. Cassidy looks back at him. So this storyline probably is not quite over yet. I think they're going to end this at AEW's Wrestling Dreams. Yes, that is a new pay-per-view that's being brought in to AEW's pay-per-view scheduling in October, early October. God help us all. It's going to be on a Saturday, though. I may get it. I may not. I'm not sure. I don't know what the hell they're doing. Now they're starting to... I'm thinking they're going to start going month to month with pay-per-views, which I don't particularly like that idea. When you're charging people $50 a month for these pay-per-views, it's a lot of money to keep up after. I don't know if I'm going to continuously do that. I may find a way to watch it and then review it later on, but I cannot afford the full price of $50. That's just way too much for me. Anyway, Fox, we get a match for the International Championship with Jon Moxley and AR Fox. AR Fox is escorted down to the ring with Darby Allin. Funny, he attacks Darby Allin's friend Nick Wayne, and now all of a sudden they're best friends again after a brutal assault, which could have been considered assault and battery, and would have been, under court rules, he would have been arrested and thrown in jail. But hey, nothing like good old fantasy and storytelling and television making absolutely no fucking sense, right? Right. Anyway, Jon Moxley, of course, wins this match with the Death Rider and gets the 1-2-3. Jon Moxley walks away still the international champion. Darby Allin checks on Fox after the match is over and raises his hand. On the video screen, Christian Cage and Luchasaurus approach Nick Wayne. Cage takes a shot at Buddy Wayne, Nick's late father, and says he should consider a champion to be his mentor. He also tells Nick to say hi to his mom for him, and states that his father is really a terrible wrestler at the time that he was wrestling. Wow. Christian Cage has got a mouth on him, but as a wrestler, he ain't doing a whole lot of wrestling. When he does wrestle, he's not terrible. He's pretty good. We got TBS Women's Championship match with Chris Statlander defending the title against Amira Sakura. And man, did I not give a flying fuck about this match at all. Obviously, we know who is going to win this. Chris Statlander retains for TBS Women's Championship. What happened to Jade Cargill? I wonder what happened to her. Apparently, nobody seems to care about her, and neither does Tony Khan. So, there you go. Anyway, backstage, we have Roderick Strong is asked about his parents. And he says they didn't know how to be parents as they had some issues. Strong recalls how wrestling was his escape. He says wrestling is everything to him and vows to win the Grand Slam tournament to go after the World Heavyweight title on September 20th. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I think Samoa Joe is the guy to win. Obviously, with the storyline build they did here tonight, it looks like to me that he's going to be the guy to go one-on-one with MJF for the world title. Then we have Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara going up against the Aussie Open, which is Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher. This match was fair. Chris Jericho picks up the victory with the Judas effect. A little bit of a, miscommunication between Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho. Jericho accidentally hit Sammy Guevara in the face. Not intentionally, but accidental. But it still upsetted Sammy Guevara a little bit. And, they win the match, but it didn't look like they were real winners when they were just kind of being jerks to one another and shoving each other back and forth. So Guevara, after the match is over, is clearly frustrated. He throws his arm down when Jericho tries to raise it, and Guevara shoves Jericho, and security comes out to separate them, and Guevara walks out. So not looking good between the Les Sex gods. Anyway, a vignette of Ricky Starks comments on his loss to Bryan Danielson at All Out, and he says he proved a point at All Out, and Starks says he's pissed off, and all he wants is a chance. Starks makes it clear that he doesn't just want a slice of bread, he wants a full feast. So apparently we're going to get a continuation of Ricky Starks and Bryan Danielson. Now, the thing is about Bryan Danielson is he had a severe arm injury. It seemed like, from what I heard, he broke his arm. And then randomly just showed up a week after the biggest event that he could have been a part of in Wembley Stadium, and showed up on the short end of the stick of a pay-per-view. Which I don't quite understand why that happened, but it did. But from what I saw from the highlights of the match, it looked pretty brutal, pretty damn good. Something I would have appreciated to see on the Wembley card. Unfortunately, we did not get that, and there sure as hell ain't no way I was going to afford to spend $100 instead of $50. Just did not see the point in the investment. So there's an interview. Don Callis hypes up Takeshita's win over Kenny Omega and says their next target will be revealed next week. Whoop-de-fucky-do. I'm sure that match between Kenny Omega and Takeshita is not over. All right, so MJF comes out, looks back on the living looks back on living in Indiana during his time on the independent scene. He brings up AEW All Out, where he and Adam Cole retain their tag team titles for the Ring of Honor tag titles, and MJF turns his attention to the AEW Grand Slam and looks forward to his return to New York. MJF says that no matter who wins the Grand Slam tournament, they will learn that no one is on the level of the devil. He starts to call out Samoa Joe, who comes to the ring. These two actually had an altercation at All Out after Adam Cole and MJF retained their tag titles. Samoa Joe came out in his entrance defending his television title for Ring of Honor, and Samoa Joe kind of just gave him a shrug to the shoulder and kind of offended MJF. So this led to somewhat of a problem between these two. Joe says he wanted to hear what MJF had to say, and MJF says Joe must have come to the ring so quickly because he confused MJF's theme song for an ice cream truck. Joe highlights his success on Twisted Metal and again asks MJF to describe what's the problem. Joe calls MJF a kid, and MJF says he's a creative guy too. He calls Joe a Pillsbury Joe boy and a Samoa Joe. Joe calls MJF an id again, a kid again, and MJF threatens to knock Joe's teeth down his throat, and MJF says Joe is trying to make him mad, but he won't be skipping the line as there's a tournament. MJF says Joe would know what he was like when he was a kid. He recalls how he had a tryout in WWE, and he repeats the story about how William Regal passed on him, and MJF threatens to send Samoa Joe back to the NXT. Oh boy, I don't think Samoa Joe wants to go back to that, the new version of NXT, because that version absolutely sucks. Not to mention, he might help their ratings out, but nonetheless, I'll digress. Anyway, MJF recalls how Samoa Joe shoved him when he was an extra with the WWE during a backstage walk into the ring to defend his NXT championship, and MJF says he's not a kid anymore. He says is a generational talent, the best wrestler in the world, and the AEW World Champion. MJF says Joe should stay out of his way or I'll kill him. Joe says he thought MJF was a little bitch, and MJF slaps him, and Joe says he's going to win the tournament so he can get a title shot. Joe attacks MJF and grabs the title and holds it high, but actually MJF first hits him below the belt with the rope when he's trying to leave the ring, and then Samoa Joe gets nailed with a low blow, some shit like that, and voila. MJF hits Joe with a blow to the below the belt and takes the fight to him, and Joe slams. I had it backwards, excuse me. Joe hit the ropes and it hit him in the groin, and then vice versa, MJF hit Joe in below the belt and takes the fight to him. Joe slams MJF to the mat, and Joe goes for a muscle buster, but Adam Cole makes the save, and MJF is clearly in pain. I believe this is a storyline, not a clear-cut, legitimate injury. If it was, we would have the X signal notifying the legitimate doctors to come out and check up on him, but I don't think this is an actual real injury. This is more for storyline purposes than anything else. They escort MJF to the back, and Roderick Strong comes out and argues with Adam Cole, and big fucking whoop-de-doo. Roderick Strong wins his match against Trent Beretta to advance in the tournament, so he moves on to the second round. Plus, also, he's going to face Darby Allin, which was the main event of this episode last night. So there you go. He beats Nick Wayne in a one-on-one match. Very fun little main event, by the way, so I don't have to go back into that once we get to it. The Kingdom, after the match is over, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett put Strong's neck brace back on him, and in an interview, Toni Storm is asked about her actions at AEW All Out. She dodges the question and says it's time to look forward. Renee Paquette says a fatal four-way match will determine Saraya's challenger at the AEW Grand Slam. Okay, great. She also throws a shoe at her at the end. So, big fucking whoop-de-doo. Alright, anyway, in-ring segment, Hangman Page. We have Page says he flew out to AEW All Out at the last minute and says he says being able to donate to the Chicago Public Education Fund meant a lot to him. Hangman says he wants to look forward. Swerve Strickland interrupts and comes to the ring, and he questions Hangman's doing charity, and Strickland also criticizes Hangman for competing on the pre-show. He says Page used to be a cornerstone and a franchise player. Strickland says that Hangman either lost his spot or doesn't want it anymore. I like this little back and forth. I quite don't understand why Swerve Strickland really gives two flying fucks about Hangman and his inspirations and all that. Like, what does he give a shit about Hangman Page and what he's doing? If anything, he shouldn't want to stir the pot or get that fire burning within Hangman Page, because at that point he's going to be a very big competitor to him. And if they so happen to cross paths in this tournament, Hangman Page is going to knock his head clean the fuck off. But it is kind of interesting. I mean, seeing Swerve kind of get a storyline build with a guy that's been a former world champion is pretty nice. And they could always use Hangman Page's name to help Swerve get a boost and a rub to kind of advance him in the promotion and get people serious behind Swerve Strickland. Just my viewpoint on that. Also, Swerve points out that Hangman got a new contract, so has been eating well, but it shows, meaning he's kind of been getting a little bit of a belly and not been working out and keep himself in shape. He says Hangman took a backseat to the Elite and he has gotten comfortable. Strickland tells Hangman to either move out of the way so he can take his spot, or he should man up and find his inner fire. Swerve says they could fight for the spot and he will walk Hangman like a dog. Nice comment there. He says he's coming for the spot either way. Hangman says if Strickland wants a match, he can go get it. He walks out. Swerve calls after him and says it's a shame Hangman's wife and kids have to see him walk away from responsibilities. And Page gets in Swerve's face and Brian Cage attacks him at the end of this promo. A video package then highlights the Grand Slam tournament matches on AEW Rampage. Jeff Hardy, I believe, is going up against Samoa Joe. That should be a kind of an interesting match, depending on how Jeff Hardy provides in that match against Samoa Joe. There's a few other matches that are taking place for Rampage for this tournament that they're doing for the world title for Grand Slam on September 20th. And then the main event, of course, as I already mentioned, was Darby Allin versus Nick Wayne. Very good matchup. These guys really worked well together. And I enjoyed it for what it was. And Allin manages to get the W by making Nick Wayne tap out, pretty much. So this was a really decent show, very solid. I like the Samoa Joe MJF build they got going. Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page is kind of out of nowhere, which I kind of like. And that's pretty much it. John Moxley and Orange Cassidy seem like a good deal as well. Still, I think they could still build something off of that and go for one more rematch, I would say. But that's about it. So anyway, guys, that's all I have to say at this time. Fairly decent show overall. If you enjoyed this review, please, by all means, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel, and leave a comment down below. I'll definitely get back to you on that. Thank you guys very much for watching, and have a great night, guys. Bye.